everyone. I am back here with yet another episode of Leanify Construction in collaboration with Offsite Dirt. Again, super thrilled to be joining forces with them and bring forth multiple diverse voices in front of all of you. And these leaders come from many different varied industries. My goal has always been to bring invaluable expertise directly to you, share remarkable insights from their extensive journeys, and also, in the end, stay tuned for some key takeaways from our leader that we will be speaking about. This time, I'm super thrilled to bring one of our dear women leader in the industry, in the lien industry, and I'm super excited to be talking to her. She was introduced by another great person, Jessie, to me, and the first meeting was absolutely amazing, and I was already a fan with all the work and accomplishments she already has, and I'm super excited to be interviewing her. So thank you so much, Lynn, for agreeing to be on the show with me. I am not going to give a good introduction because I won't be doing a lot of justice, but really quick, Lynn actually currently serves as the Senior Director of Continuous Improvement for America's Corporate Office for Mitsubishi Electric. And she has been with Mitsubishi about 15 years, actually. And some of the accomplishments that I would absolutely like to highlight is she was elected to serve on the boards and then also as the president for the Northern California Industry Group and the National Association of Elevator Contractors. So we are definitely speaking to one of the greatest minds, and I am super excited to be interviewing her. But again, thank you so much for coming on the show, Lynn. And if you can, tell us a little bit about your journey, your career, and how did you land in Mitsubishi?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for having me. And I think you did a fabulous job at introducing me. You make me sound really awesome. So,
Yeah.
my journey here to Mitsubishi, it's interesting. I'm at the tipping point where I've been with Mitsubishi longer than I had been with the family-owned business. So, luckily for me, my father was in the Air Force and he was a pilot. And when he retired from the Air Force, he couldn't find a job flying airplanes, believe it or not. So a friend of his was in the elevator industry. And it's a very niche industry. Not a lot of people even think about elevators until you're actually riding in one. So, I mean, I'd been around elevators all my life. The first ride I had on an elevator car top, which is like a big deal. I was just a little kid. We had just moved to Northern California from Southern California, where my dad is originally from. And so I've been around it forever. And when he took over that company in the San Francisco area, they were in the middle of some really large construction projects. And so it was just kind of fun. I come from a large family, but the second youngest. And so on weekends, my dad would take my mom and me and my younger sister out. We'd go out to job sites, looking at elevators, construction sites, maintenance sites. It was super fun. So when I sort of came of working age, I guess you can say, my dad hired me. And so I worked for him in sales and then sort of just took over the company because his days away from work were getting longer than his days at work. And I just sort of slipped into the role of general manager for the family-owned
Oh,
business.
you didn't slip into it. You are a natural leader. I mean, yeah, you just happened to be a natural leader. Your dad saw it and you were a GM.
Thank you. I
You're
like
not.
to think that, but I'm just lucky, I suppose, right, that he was in the elevator business or somehow he fell into it. Because most folks who get into the elevator business do get in because of a family member or something like this. But his was just a childhood friend who said, hey, come check it out. So anyway, that's how I ended up with Mitsubishi, was that when my father died, there was some turmoil in the family. I was the only one of that large family that worked at the business, and it just ended up it was a little bit easier to leave Northern California and come down here to Southern California. And luckily for me, I landed with Mitsubishi, and they have been, San Diego was their second foray into the American market. The first market was, in fact, San Francisco. The second was San Diego. And they actually interviewed me to be a PM on a really large project. Didn't really turn me on. And I ended up at the end of it was a dinner meeting with the GM at the time. And I was telling him, I'm sorry, project management is tough. I think anybody who's been in construction knows I mean, it's just hard, right? You're handling expectations, handling field personnel, it's a lot. And I was saying no. I was like, I don't want this job. You don't want me. I don't, whatever. And he happened to ask, well, what is it that you do like?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, and this is literally the interview's done, and he's signing the check, and his head's down signing the check, and he goes, oh, so what is it that you do like? And I said, you know what, give me a red pen or something that's broken. I love marking up contracts. I love writing policies and procedures and all of this stuff. And he just stopped like mid check writing, and I think I have a job for you. And he created a position called National Contracts Manager. So it gave me a different view of construction.
Nice.
I took over the review and negotiation of all construction contracts for the company nationwide. And, the time that I had that role, which ended about 2 years ago when I moved into continuous improvement, Lean, I'm now in charge of our Lean transformation. The company had doubled in size. So the volume of construction contracts had also doubled in size. So it's a different look at construction for sure.
Awesome. I mean, that's amazing. You were actually offered a job. Actually, a job was created for you, a role was created for you to get you in. I mean, that speaks a lot about your skills, about what you have accomplished, and then now Lane. And I'm sure you're enjoying this roller coaster of a ride. Lean is not easy. It's a lot of change management. I think a lot of fatigue that comes with it. So I am super, I mean, that really segues very well in my next to my next question, wherein I usually ask my guests to highlight one of that prominent project that you were part of that was, of course, full of challenges. I mean, to be honest, any big, medium-sized project has never been on time, has always has scope, time, schedule, cost challenges, either or all of them. So would love to deep dive into one of that project and have our listeners tune in and see if they resonate with some of those.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's interesting because now that I've moved on from the elevator industry, the man that hired me, who was GM of the elevator division for Mitsubishi Electric, actually moved on and up and became president of Mitsubishi Electric. And so a couple years ago, when he saw the benefits of Lean at one of the other divisions, also in the building systems world, but not elevators, it was HVAC actually. They were on a Lean journey, but they were several years into it, and you could see the change in the organization already. So he asked me to come over and launch our Lean transformation for Mitsubishi Electric across all of the divisions. So the story that I want to share with you isn't specific to construction, really, although with the division, the elevator division, there's a ton of opportunity. Right? Sure. Whether it's on their construction sites or not, there's a ton of opportunity there. But you shared with everyone that we were introduced through Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
And I belong to the Emotional Bungee Jumpers, which is a group that he has that meets monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And we meet and we exercise and try to grow our coaching skills. And the project I want to talk about is we had talked about this actually. I had a huge event coming up where I was bringing people from all over the Americas,
Yep.
South America, Central
Yep.
America, North America, and Japan. And I was trying to figure out, you know, how can I bring Lien to this group of people who may or may not have exposure to it, right? Everybody understands continuous improvement or process improvements, or maybe they've heard of Lean and Six Sigma or something like this. But I wanted to bring it in a way that they could all leave thinking, okay, this makes sense. So this particular conference is called the Productivity Conference, and it's the annual America's Productivity Conference. And I called the theme for this conference productivity through purpose. And the objective I decided would be to equip the attendees with like two-way communication and listening skills so that they could encourage and facilitate two-way communication, which is the gateway to everything, right? Whether it's process improvements or finding your purpose or problem solving. So I met with Jesse. I met with you. I met with a few
Yes.
people, and
Yes.
Jesse just suggested, why don't you just use the emotional bungee jumper format?
Mm.
And it was a pretty long conference. It just happened last week, as a matter of fact. And one of the segments was a 90-minute round. It was like 40 people.
Yeah.
So I had them broken up into groups, multilingual, and everybody was speaking English from multiple backgrounds, a lot of manufacturing, some construction. I invited some legal folks, HR, finance. It
Very
was
diverse.
really an interesting group. And
Wow.
then I mixed everybody up so that you didn't have people from the same companies, even the people with the same language, right?
Mm.
Oh my gosh, it was phenomenal. And the value behind communication. And then of course, I tried to connect it all back because I had a segment on, we called it PDCA3,
Yes.
thinking and
Yes.
linking. How do you link the
Yes.
scientific thinking with this thing called A3? And, it was fantastic. That project, I mean, I'd been planning for months on it. I think when we met, it had to have been at least two
Yeah.
or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So that project to me was killer because it ended with our factory in Brazil saying, hey, can we do something like this with our team, with Colombia saying the same thing. Japan, they were just they didn't know what was going on, but they loved it. And it was fantastic to see people that aren't usually very comfortable speaking out loud,
Yeah.
doing that. And then
Yeah.
I did all of the reflections and things like that. And so the feedback throughout the event was, this is great. They want to know more about A3, which is, A3 thinking.
Awesome.
So
Wow. So what stood out in your, like, what was that like point that actually resonated with the audience? Like, what stands out now that you like back or think about the event? An
I think
activity or a speech or words, like, I don't know, an action that just connected and brought them all in.
I think there were two things. So one of them was giving them real life examples
Hmm.
of what it means to, with A3s, everybody has their own way of going about it. But basically it's about great communication and storytelling,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the storyline's always the same.
Yes.
What's the problem? Why are we here? What's the reason for action? Oh, what's the current state? What does it look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, where do we want to go and how do we get there, right? And so the person I had asked to deliver that segment, a seasoned professional from one of our divisions on the East Coast, and he's been a lean internal, external consultant with the likes of like Nike and so on before he got to Mitsubishi. So I mean, he's been around, but he did an A3 on Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
It
That's
was
so cool.
it was fantastic because people could relate to it, right?
Yes, of course.
Oh my God, it was beautiful. And the feedback when we did our reflections, he got so much uh, accolades for that. Like I could really relate to that. So that was, I think, key, right? In figuring out how do you connect something that seems kind of abstract, because you try to make it sound simple. Look, A3 is nothing more than the size of the paper. It doesn't matter about the steps or boxes so long as you work within the confines. It's still just this,
Yes.
blah blah blah, right?
Yes.
So that was huge that he was able to find a way to make people think like, oh, I get it. Who doesn't know the Lord of the Rings, right?
That's so cool. That's so cool. And especially, I think what like the more I hear about it, but I think what's important is actually like break away from the monotony of work and
Yeah.
just be exploring things outside. I was talking to someone yesterday and we were talking about, no, not yesterday, actually last week. And I was talking about like there was a time when I did a value stream mapping on my day. And
Oh,
like where do I spend my time most, and like just for fun, just like on a
yeah,
piece of paper, and identified the waste in motion I had. For example, can I co-locate things to make my life easy, especially after having kids? Things changed for me. So just taking sometimes just not thinking about these things in the realm of work only, and especially lean is very very applicable to personal life, whatever, like it doesn't have to be always work. I think that really gets the audience, that really brings them in, and allows people to have fun while actually learning something.
indeed. I love the way you said that too, is like breaking away
Yeah.
from the work, because I'm sure you've done the same too. Generally you're trying to relate it to the work because that's the whole point.
Yep.
They didn't call you in to help them solve their problems at home. They've got something going on at work, so
Absolutely. And and this you reminded me about, so usually when I run my Kaizen events, actually we do some training, and sometimes it's like a monologue of 4 hours training people. Nobody has the time or even the patience while they have a day job going,
right.
be listening to you. So I remember this activity, just a fun activity with like a team of six I did, wherein we were explaining why batching isn't always the most productive, and why Lean talks about one piece flow. You can have batching like in increments, like current operations. And like literally, it had nothing, like we didn't even start with the concept of batching. All we said, hey, we're going to play a game. We'll have 5 people. We have to do this. And my end product, like we have to hold a paper and make it and say origami paper, something like that. And it was so much fun. And in the end, like people didn't even realize that they were learning something. They were just trying to win against the teams. And like I always do that whenever I'm leading events, where you start with the game and then introduce, okay, what you learned in that
Right.
process. So the engagement is amazing, and people just forget that, okay, it's work, it's training, and all of that blah, as you said.
Yes, yes, yes. Before I moved into this role as continuous improvement, senior director of continuous improvement, I came from training and development.
Hmm.
And that just has that training and development. So, it's like lean, you're going to show me something. Oh, man, it's just the eye roll. So,
Yeah, it's like, oh my,
yeah,
another training on my
yeah.
sure, next, done.
Yeah, so that was kind of fun. And doing that, I was trying to work, it was intentional actually. I was trying to work people up to the eventual emotional bungee jumper scenario where I had mixed groups of 4
Mhm.
sharing these things. So I had to ease into it. So the PDCA3, using Lord of the Rings, was a great segue into starting to disconnect from work, or not disconnect, but correlate
Mhm.
the work
Yeah.
with things that you have
Yeah.
in the back of your
Yeah.
head. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's I loved so many aspects of what you just talked about, which is having diverse groups, right? So
mhm.
people just break away from I would say the comfort zone, and just
Yeah.
get out and talk to people, get to know each other. That's also very important, part of these events. I am so happy that this was so successful. People were so impressed. I am sure you're super proud of yourself, because I remember us talking about it. And you were like really looking forward to it. And you were also like, okay, I need to make sure that this is a good one because people across the world are traveling. So kudos to you for doing and leading such an amazing, a fabulous, fantastic, successful event. um, I do want to get into something very important that you had highlighted in some of our conversations is some but I'm not, I mean, I would let you talk more about it, but in general, like, trends that you're watching in the industry, and especially as it relates to mental health, and what are your thoughts around that? I would love for my viewers to talk about this topic, because I also personally feel that it's very often ignored and not talked about
Mm-hmm.
enough.
So whether it's the construction industry or in this most recent incident or conference that I held, some of these were productivity or operations and production managers from manufacturing environments, which is not dissimilar to construction, where you might have a divide between management and the people turning wrenches, the office and the field, or whatever it is. The the fear of speaking up, of communicating, of talking about maybe things that you're experiencing at home is real, no matter where you are. So part of the conference that I held, part of the beauty and the value of that emotional bungee jumping type of exercise, where someone shares a problem and then someone acts as the coach, and they try to help the problem owner maybe change their perspective on what's going on. But the value of that exercise comes in the debrief, when you ask them, how did it feel? How did it feel to talk about it? And, it was interesting to see there were some that felt good. They felt relief in having shared something, because someone else in their little group of four had experienced the same thing. And I think that that's one of those things that you want everybody to know, you're not alone. And then for others, it was being the coach was harder than being the problem owner. But the value for them was in realizing that people are struggling with all kinds of things. You never know, because they may walk around with that brave face, or maybe a grumpy attitude, but there's something going on. And so the ability to maybe remove yourself from it, feel the empathy though, and ask, I mean, it's just so important. So I think that's a big change, not just for the construction industry, but in our world today, probably brought on by the pandemic, right? Everybody suddenly has that feeling of isolation. So I see that as a huge moment right now in our world today, where that word vulnerable is becoming a little bit more comfortable for people to speak.
Yeah. No, I think it's often too ignored, and especially in construction, people don't talk about it. You're at job sites. I don't have the data like statistics right in front of me, but this was a topic that we were going over. We as part of my lean coffee meets, on why you have employees working at job site actually committing suicides. There is absolutely, I mean, it's unfortunate that people, like, I just feel that at least there is some touch and feel in, say, if you're in office, if you probably are meeting a couple of people, but especially in construction at job sites where you're actually doing your thing day in, day out, nobody is taking the time to stop and talk about this topic, which is bad. I mean, it's a $3 trillion industry. It probably is the third, fourth most largest industry, and employing a big chunk of people around the world. So, uh, super important. I cannot stress enough. And I think as human beings, we all have some eccentricity, if I'm saying it right, in some ways. I mean, there are very few people who are like really zen, and it's okay to accept those flaws and be talking about it. Just as you said, like talking about it and finding the tribe.
Mhm.
And I just feel it myself too. Like whenever I find someone talking about issues that I never spoke about, and I just feel, oh my God, I'm not alone. I have people around me speaking or feeling the same. And it doesn't have to be a people that I just met. It's actually just a post on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Like, oh my
Mhm.
God, yes, exactly. I feel the same. So it feels great to find a sounding board. It feels great to find people are not alone doing or feeling the way they are. So thank you so much. This is the first time this topic has come up on my show, and I'm so happy it has come up. I actually have been contemplating writing an article about this because too often this is ignored. And with with my experiences also, I want to shed more light on this because um, it's important. It's important. We talk
Mhm.
about physical health. It's important to talk about and keep our sanity and talk about mental health too. So I super thankful for bringing this topic up, especially on my show. So I appreciate it.
Listen, I think it's leadership must take ownership of this issue. And it doesn't matter if it's a construction site or even in the office,
Yep.
but particularly with construction, where the past has always been you drive and drive hard. You're driving schedule, and it just doesn't matter. And so GCs are pushing trade partners who are pushing their PMs, who then push the superintendent, who pushes the PM.
Yes.
It's this terrible cycle, and leadership owes it to the industry and to all of their employees to change that dynamic. You can still push for schedule, but there's got to be a better and a different way of doing it. Too many people might talk about, oh, we need to, find joy and purpose in work, but how? How are you going to do that? They
Do
need,
it, right. Yeah, I mean, enough of talking. And I think
yeah.
nothing of this can actually trickle down until leadership takes ownership, as you said. So there
Mhm.
should be accountability around this. Do something. Do it. Don't just talk about it. It's not a philosophy. It's not a writing on the wall or something like that. Do it.
Yeah.
Even if you are not marketing it enough. And I mean, share experience. I think that's important. So thank you for shedding light on
Mhm.
such a important, critical subject, a very delicate subject. So I think that pretty much brings us towards the end of the show.
Wow.
I got time flew. No, I didn't even realize like we were just talking for 30 minutes. So thank you so much. It's always been like that with you. Thank you, B, for being here. And big thanks to all my listeners, whether you're sipping coffee, whether you're on your commute to work. Thank you for checking us out. Thank you for supporting this community. And I will be back soon with yet another episode with Offsite Dirt. Till then, take care. Bye bye.